And he took the time during that AA season to help me find it. I dropped my arm angle, trying to make it to the big leagues. I had no idea what I was doing. And every single day we played catch. Every single day we tried new grips. He was left-handed like I was. And we threw bullpens, and the love that he showed me in a moment where he didn't need to, because I wasn't, if I made it to the big leagues, it's not like a badge of honor for him. I'm just another guy. He needed to get the prospects up. And the fact that he took that time in AA, every time I see him, I thank him for it.
Well, here we are. What episode is this, Chad Chop?
Well, good morning, Coach Ballgame. This is episode 2 or 3.
I think it's actually 4. And,
okay. Well,
and that is our tagline for the Talkin' Shop with Coach Ballgame. And Chad Chop is just trying to figure out what episode it is and then start rolling.
Hey, we'll get there.
We will get there. I want to give you props before we even really dig into baseball and all this good stuff. You have 2 kids that are at home doing Zooms, and you've had a bit of a hairy morning being the father of 4. Walk me through that epic morning.
Yeah, it was great. It was multiple Zooms are going currently. It was my newly 14-year-old birthday last night. Happy birthday, Michael. Yeah. And so just getting, just being parents, we all get it. We've all been doing it here for a little bit now, but it was intense, and supposed to be on at 8:30, got on by about 8:32. So thank you for your patience. Patience is a virtue.
Well done indeed. Yeah. We scheduled this on Tuesday mornings, 8:30, which is perfect time because Mrs. Ballgame can get both the girls out of the house to school. She does the gym, Trader Joe's. Like this is our Tuesday routine, but there's always curveballs, especially when you have 4 kids.
Yes,
2. I only got the 2. So you're playing zone, and we got to give our wives an atta girl on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Atta girl. Yeah. Well, hey, so you I heard that I think the term is God bless Texas. I heard you got to make a little trip to Dallas. I need to hear all the details. What happened? What'd you do this last weekend?
Got pretty dreamy. We were in Dallas, Texas for a company called Warstick, owned by Ian Kinsler.
Heard of him.
Gold Glover, World Series champ. Epic second baseman. And then Jack White, who is one of the top 50 guitar players of all time, says Rolling
White
Stone.
Stripes.
Oh, boy, Seven Nation Army. They own this company called Warstick, and they make bats. And they had their grand opening this weekend down in Dallas, Texas. They invited me to come. I ran a sandlot for kids there in Dallas. Like 70 kids showed up.
Wow.
Had lots of manpower down there helping me do my coaching. They were running each sandlot game on this Texas Rangers Youth Academy field. It was huge space.
Huge.
So we could put
Texas
small. I mean,
yeah,
they ain't kidding. I mean, and not the parking lots are not the only thing that's huge down there. The baseball fields are big. So we had 5 separate games going, lots of coaches helping out. And then I just got to run around with my drum, singing songs, telling stories, dishing out nicknames, passing out baseball cards.
Breathing life.
Ian Kinsler and Alex Avila, the titanium catcher, show up, surprise the kids. They talk a little bit about kindness, which was awesome. And then they did an Attaboy Challenge, which was also super epic. And that was just, it couldn't have went smoother. Being able to tell the Roberto Clemente story to these kids in Texas, and some of them came from Colorado and Tennessee and Louisiana. I just feel so fortunate that people think enough of me to come that far and just enjoy a day of baseball. From there, it gets better. We go to the actual Warstick place. I don't know what to call it. It's like a batting cage and a store. We'll call it a store. The Warstick store
compound.
Compound. They have a huge batting cage, and I ran a hitting clinic with some guy who played college football and baseball at Michigan State. He's actually in the College Football Hall of Fame, but he's most well known to have an epic mustache and an epic home run at Dodger Stadium in the World Series. Kirk Gibson shows up.
No way.
And Kirk Gibson, Kirk Gibson and 20 kids. We have a little batting practice in the War Stick headquarters there. That was the word I was thinking, headquarters.
Yeah.
So before the clinic, I just say, Kirk Gibson, this is a dream. You are my hero. You're my dad's hero. I was thinking maybe we talk about balance, maybe vision, as far as hitting. He goes, nah, just give me the microphone. I'm going to talk to the parents about positivity.
Let's go. Kirk Gibson, positivity.
I said, you got it, Kirk. So I do my best to, relive my 6-year-old memory. And this was the first visual memory I have of baseball, was his home run in 1988. The second visual memory was the 89 World Series when there was the earthquake and they didn't play. Right. But in 88, I do remember, sitting in my living room there with my dad and my brothers and watching that home run and hearing Vin Scully call the homer. And I said, kids, this was my first visual memory as a 6-year-old boy. This guy hits a home run and he's hobbling around the bases and he's pumping his fists like this right here. And he's here. And before I even can say his name, he's already right beside me. And I had my conga drum there and he's just leaning on my conga drum. And he's like, hey kids, you ever struck out? And they all said, yes. And he said, how'd that make you feel? And they're all like, bad.
Yeah.
He's like, did you need your parents to tell you just struck out after you struck out? They were like puzzled. And then he just turns to the parents and he's like, can you hear me, parents? I want to tell you about the power of positivity. And then he lines the kids up at home plate and he says, I know Coach Ballgame's going to teach you about hitting, but I want to teach you about fun. Because I had fun every at bat. Every time I got in the batter's box, I enjoyed watching that ball come towards me. I enjoyed seeing the ball hit the bat. So he got them all lined up at home plate and he said, we're going to practice a home run trot. And I'm going to go first. And he emulated to a T the home run against Dennis Eckersley. And he says, hey, kids, how about this? As he's rounding second base, he goes right here with it. And then all the kids ran around and that set the tone for our hitting clinic.
Yes. That's so good.
That was my hitting clinic with Kirk Gibson. Then we have a celebrity sandlot game for adults. But before that, it was batting practice. And guess who threw BP? I pulled my best Chad Chop impersonation. I threw beeps for about an hour and a half. Just dialed in. Felt great. I was in the rhythm. I was in the zone, when you get in that rhythm where you don't even feel 100%. Like you're in the straining the arm, it's just moving. It's just movement, languid,
finding barrels,
dexterous. And boy, can I find some barrels. So, I mean, we've got some studs rolling in there, Kinsler and Avila and some minor leaguers who are going to be in the show soon. Like the all-time hits leader in the SEC, Jake Mangum, who's in the Mets organization, Brent Rooker, who's the Twins first baseman. I'm finding their barrels. And then here comes LaTroy Hawkins and Dallas Braden and Jared Garabas and Jack White, who is actually a really good player. And the story with Jack White is grew up in Detroit, the youngest of 10, loved the Tigers. So he and Ian Kinsler became good friends when Ian was with the Tigers, and they created this bat company with CEO Ben Jenkins, who invited me down. So Kirk Gibson rolls in and he still got it, dude. It's this, I had the Field of Dreams moment. Like when I'm about to throw my first pitch, like I am pitching to Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yes.
So, I mean,
did you throw him a backdoor slider?
I just went, please don't hit Kirk Gibson. I mean, I'm dialed in, but you still, those negative thoughts roll in. Speaking of negative thoughts in a kid's brain, But boy, I just dialed it right in there, and he was clobbering the ball. Same exact swing. I mean, you've got the hunched over batting stance, and then the front foot comes up and right back down, and he just front legs everything so hard.
With the war stick bat too? Was he swinging the war stick
they were
bat?
all using the war stick bats.
Loud and hard. Yeah.
Full uniforms, helmets, everything.
Yes.
David Murphy really impressed me with his barrel finding. That guy can rake. Remember that Texas Ranger?
David Murphy,
Chris Woodward, manager of the Rangers, he can play some shortstop. He hit the ball. Yeah. So then we go to the field, and I announce the game. And you got Boog Shambi in the first base dugout, Ken Rosenthal in the third base dugout. They're just doing the interviews, and they're like, "Ballgame, do your thing." So I introduced Kirk Gibson for the first pitch. And a lot of the kids in the bleachers had come to my sandlot earlier that day, so I was able to interview them and ask them, what were they excited about for the big game, and then they just played a game, and it was amazing. You had LaTroy Hawkins out there still throwing bullets, Dallas Braden, it was amazing, and we all went back to the headquarters about 10 o'clock at night, and Jack White put on a private concert. He signed my guitar here, and he melted our faces with beautiful, beautiful music. So,
is that a Gibson guitar? Is that a Gibson guitar to tie it all together?
This is actually a Baby Taylor, but
okay, all right, I'll allow it.
But Jack does have that would have been great if it was a Kirk Gibson guitar, but he does have 3 Gibsons. Jack White does everything in threes. He had 3 Gibsons on the stage. One was made out of maple wood. And the only thing I know made out of maple wood is bats. And that's why he wanted it. By the way, he also has a bat in the speakeasy. They call it a speakeasy, the downstairs area there at the headquarters, signed by one Ty Cobb.
Holy moly.
So he's a memorabilia guy. And that was my 36 hours of heaven. So
that's an amazing weekend.
Dreams.
Wow. That is so cool. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I don't know why. I got lucky like that this weekend, and I've been fortunate enough to meet some of my heroes. But I just keep thinking about that phrase in Field of Dreams: if you build it, they will come. And I've had so many people encourage me, push me, inspire me to build it, and keep going, just keep going. And then it just, the Kirk Gibsons and the Rod Carews and the Ozzie Smiths start rolling in. And here's what I'll say to close out my story. We're in the dugout before the Sandlot game with Kirk Gibson, Alex Avila's there, Kinsler, and I say, Kirk Gibson, it sure is awesome when you meet your idol.
Yeah.
And they're awesome. They're just an awesome person, because he couldn't have been more giving to these kids in this clinic. And he's like, give me the youngest kids. He took the 5-year-olds and he was teaching them how to hit off the tee. Yeah. And I was like, man, every idol that I've met, including you, you're just super kind and willing to give. So, man.
Well, I wanted to speak to that. I want to speak to that with you, because you just got done saying you don't know why this is happening to you, but I do. It's because of who you are and what you're about. And it's the kindness and the joy and the trying to treat people with respect and look for that opportunity for, maybe not the best player on the field, and you're looking to breathe life into everybody. And that's why you're getting these opportunities. You've earned them because you're not looking for them, right? You're looking to be kind, and you're looking to love on folks. And that's why you are where you are, and you deserve it. And I'm thankful and proud to be right here alongside you.
Oh man, thank you for saying that. Yeah, Mark Twain said the best way to put a smile on your face is to put a smile on somebody else's face. So when you've got that cycle rolling, I think this is an interesting segue from putting smiles on people's faces to to people getting rung and thrown out of youth baseball games. But
Man,
my weekend is quite the juxtaposition to your weekend.
it's a big Ivy League word.
What was going on? It's the only Ivy League word I know. That one and paraphernalia.
Paraphernalia.
Phalanges might count.
Yeah, fingers.
Yeah.
Fingers.
What and toes?
And
what
toes.
went on in Arizona this weekend?
My goodness, I don't know if we'll have time. How much time do we have? Where are we at? My clock is
10 minutes or so. We can start it at least.
That might be enough. Yeah. Well, we had a tournament this weekend, and we worked our tails off. We got to the championship game, which is great, and we were playing against another team that had earned their way to the championship game, which was great. And the other team got a little frustrated with the umpires, and to the point where 3 of their coaches got thrown out. Their parents were cussing at the umpires, and it was pretty bad. It was pretty embarrassing. It was an embarrassing thing. When it was all said and done, the tournament director's like, hey, we really need to change the culture. He was talking to me, just kind of opening up about how much worse it's gotten with travel ball. And just, I told him, I said, his name's Corey. I said, Corey, myself and Coach Ballgame, we've started a podcast because of what happened tonight. Like it's got to change. And so I'm in this moment where, and let me say, the umpires, they weren't great, but you know what? They had 6 games that day. They're doing the very best they can. And I think as a coach or as a man or as a father, it's an opportunity to be a leader in that moment and just, tell the kids like, hey, he's doing the very best he can back there. We need to adjust and respond in a positive way and find a way instead of making that the excuse or the crutch. So this game ends and, oh my gosh, we're talking the lights went out because it took so long. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm proud of our boys. They were loose and happy and, playing duck, duck, goose in center field while we were waiting for the lights to come back on. And look across the field and their coach is like ridiculing their team while they're sitting on the bench in this tie game, extra innings, and just not letting them have any fun. And it's just like, man, what are we doing? What's the goal? So this game ends, we ended up winning. And the tournament director calls both coaches over. And this coach just starts going off, right? Umpires are terrible, and this is embarrassing, and this, that, and the other, and I've never seen anything so bad, and this, that. And he goes, what do you think, coach? And he asked me, and I said, do you want my opinion? And I said, yes, I do. I said, all right, I'll give you my opinion. And my opinion was, I've never been more embarrassed to be on a field seeing that display of a lack of leadership from a coaching staff. You have all these kids looking at us as men and adults for an example. And I think it was a missed opportunity. I said, I've never been more embarrassed. I think that was a very bad display. And it's embarrassing. I said, it's not about winning or losing. It's not. What it needs to be about is competition. We do our best. You do our best. One team scores more runs. The other team grows. But ultimately, we treat each other with respect and love, and we treat the umpires with love and respect. And that's the example we have to set. So that's what I had to deal with this weekend. And then I proceeded to spend about an hour with the tournament director, just letting him kind of, vent to me and apologize to him that it happened. And it's just disappointing, Coach. It's disappointing.
Indeed. The question that came to me, and, this is the answer that a lot of coaches, like the coach you went up against this weekend, they need to hear the answer to. Why does it need to be about respect as opposed to the win? What are you saying? They shouldn't try to win? Why were you so embarrassed?
Because ultimately we need to learn through sports, right? Or any other life experience, why we're here, right? Why it matters. So I believe that, and you do too, like, be kind, be loving, be nice. What happens to you doesn't matter. How are you going to respond? Something doesn't go your way, or maybe you've been wronged. Okay, but now what are you going to do? It's the old adage, 2 wrongs don't make a right. So umpire makes a bad call. Okay, But now how do you respond? You get a choice. Is it this victim where, oh my gosh, we got robbed? Or can you show grace and be loving and kind and teach your kids a way to, hey, let's work through this. My son got rung up on a ball in the dirt, and I went into our dugout and said, hey guys, the strike zone now. Don't get to 2 strikes. If it gets to 2, swing. That's okay. That's fine. Find a way to overcome the adversity. That's why it matters. It's not about winning or losing. They can have the ring that we got. Don't need it. What matters is how we treat people. I tell my kids, your attitude, your effort, and how you treat people. That's what we can control. And we'll go into it more after Javi. I got a few more stories from this weekend that I'm excited to share. There were some amazing moments. I had a goosebump moment that I really want to share, but I don't want to rush through it because it was an amazing moment. But really, to answer your question, and this, it's we got to treat people the right way,
Yeah.
So
it's more long lasting. I mean, what is going to last longer? The child that you're coaching, holding on to that ring they won on November 6th of whatever year this is, or the way they respect and listen to their teachers or their coaches or their parents, the way they nurture their little brothers and sisters, the way they treat their spouse and their kids down the road. Like, did that coach make each child a better dad one day because of the way they reacted? Did that coach make every parent a better parent because of the way he acted? And it sounds like it snowballed in the wrong direction, where, looking through that lens of, I got to win today, equates to yelling at an umpire, inspiring parents to say curse words loudly from the bleachers to the umpire. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? And yeah, I could yell it day after day after day, but I feel like these guests that we're having, asking them this question, asking them, what's your stance on this? And having bona fide major leaguers, been there, done that, who maybe the coach that you went up against maybe is his idol. They can kind of put him in his place, but it's a problem I noticed about a decade ago. And it's why I created this Sandlot. And it's probably a big reason why you coach the way you do, right? The life.
Hey, I just got a text.
Player.
I just got a text from this is why I got just sidebarred there. I just got a text from our guest who's like, hey, did you send the Zoom link yet? I had not sent the Zoom link yet. So he should be jumping on here any minute, which is great.
Speaking of, we have a guest each week, and this week I'll let Coach Chad Chop do the formal introduction, because Coach Chad Chop has just dialed in some serious guests. He has loaded us up every Tuesday. But I just watched some videos of this guy throwing and pitching in big games, big game pitcher. And he just owned lefties. He owned them. He came in NLCS's World Series games. And man, it's almost cruel what he did to left-handed hitters.
This was back. Some of the kids that don't know, as of a couple years ago, you had a lefty specialist, and I mean, Javi was the neutralizer. I mean, it was over. And we will, maybe someday we'll get Joey Votto on here someday, and Joey Votto can tell you he's one of the greatest hitters of all time. But Joey Votto, we would let him speak to just the level of just nastiness.
And there he is.
All right.
What's happening?
Hey, Jav, let me I'm going to do an introduction here real quick for you. For our guest, I don't know who Javi Lopez is. I nicknamed him Jay Smooth. He's a 4-time World Series champion. I have on here, he's the salt of the earth, which I love that description of him. He actually has a sandwich named after him in our household, and that is peanut butter, banana, and honey. That's called the Jay Smooth. He's just one of the best people I know. If I was doing any project, he would be on my team for that project. A baseball team, a football team, a hockey team, building a building. He's he's got to be on your team. He's unbelievable. He's got huge character and heart. Jay Smooth, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. That's why I'm wearing this hat, because this is not me. That's why I like to wear this, but it's a Michael Jordan hat, so don't take it out on me. I didn't make it for myself.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Javier Lopez. Well, the first question I had for you was your nickname. I mean, is Jay Smooth what you go by, or did you have another nickname growing up?
I had a few. Night Train is probably the earliest one I ever had, was Night Train, which I really don't know. I got it in high school. I'm not really sure where that came from, but I got it. And I kept that one for a long time. Jay Smooth is very much Chad Chop, and Hunter Pence would call me Jay Smooth. Just, I guess, kind of the way I carried myself, kind of the way he was describing. And I've had others, depends on how good I'm going, but those are probably the two that I go with the most.
Awesome. Awesome. To the listener that is maybe 10, 11, 12 years old and wasn't around just a few years ago to see what you did, that was Jay Smooth in the flesh. And I think of it as, the way you just abided by the big moment with such kind of poise, and it just seemed very relaxed. Was that what you felt inside, or was it different from what we saw, or are you just slow heartbeat all the time?
I'm glad that came off that way. That was definitely the intention. I think it was a learned process for me. If you think about my entire career, you try to establish yourself the best you can. But I think by the time I was with the Giants later on, I was in my 30s by then. I do think a lot of things slowed down. I think a lot of it, I give credit just to the guys I was around, where I knew they were doing their jobs. And I always feel like best teams kind of compete within themselves. Good, healthy competition. Like if you go out and throw a scoreless inning and Chad goes out and throws a scoreless inning, I want to do the same. I want to help the ball club in any way I can. And I think that's kind of what helps slow the heartbeat down a little bit. But there was always nervous energy. I think I'm a big finger licker as I was on the mound, and maybe during the playoffs, it might have picked up 2 or 3%. Who knows? But it felt, I tried to play with the straight face, even though I was a little nervous inside.
That's awesome. Chad Chop, back to you, brother.
Hey, Jay Smooth, what is your favorite thing about baseball? What is your favorite thing about baseball?
Well, you know what? I go back and forth with this. The competition is always great. It's never mapped out. It's so many games, this team's better than you are on paper, and you can go that with any sport. But what I like about baseball, and I think it's funny to look at it this way, and maybe I'm just weird for looking at it this way, but it's the one major sport where the offense does not have the ball. Everything is dictated by the defense, and you try to score. And I think that's an interesting way to play if you pick a sport, like you would not pick that to be the sport. You would want to have the ball. Football, basketball, hockey, you have the ball and you try to score. And I think it's just an interesting sport in my mind, that the defense dictates what happens. And I think that's the unpredictability about it that I like about it. And of course, the camaraderie and being able to hang out with the guys, no clock, I think is a cool thing too. And the field is whatever shape you want it to be. And I kind of dig that when I think about it as a kid. Like, you played in the confines of whatever size of your backyard it was. You had to make up the rules. And that's kind of what I always liked about the sport.
I love that. And, they say pitching and defense wins championships. Holy smokes, in that San Francisco era, that was true to form. So that's great. That's a true pitcher speaking about. I love that. That is a great, great description of this sport. Coach Ballgame, what do you got?
Well, I was just thinking back when he said that to my backyard. We couldn't use a baseball because we break windows. So we used a tennis ball, and we couldn't hit it to third base because there was a big tree. So, we were constantly just trying to hit the ball to right center field and, invite the neighbors over and have our own backyard sandlot. I love that. You were born in Puerto Rico, as was my grandfather. So he gave me this book about his hero and is now my hero. And I tell this story to every kid I coach, Roberto Clemente, who was all about electrifying the crowd with his play, but really being kind to anyone he could meet. And that's what I think this podcast is about, is finding the good in baseball and sharing that with kids, parents, coaches in the youth world. You're a high character guy. That's why you're on this podcast. Where'd you learn that? Where'd you learn that good character is important?
Well, I think I get that from my parents. I got to give them a lot of credit. My grandfather was in the military, so he was very, very rigid and very difficult to warm up to. I just looked at him as such an imposing figure, and we would hang out with my grandparents at least once a year. They had moved to Florida from Puerto Rico, so we'd go down there and escape the cold of Virginia. And I'd see him a lot, and I'd see the way my mom would act with him, and my parents were the same with I have two older sisters, and it's respect each other. I'm sure you guys could probably speak to this. Definitely Chop can speak to this, where as siblings, you're going to start having some difficulties and some fights. My parents would not have it ever. I could never hit my sisters, no matter if they were pounding me or not, because men don't hit women. And then my sisters could not hit on me because older people can't pick on the younger people. It was like very much a household that looked out for each other. And not that you couldn't get a little fun at times, but it was just, you were taught to respect each other and respect each other's space. And I think that it was learned. It took some time, but I do think that is one of the things that I kind of learned early on. And then also the area I was living in Northern Virginia, it's predominantly it's a very transient city. So it's very military based, or you're working for the government. Everyone pretty much has that 9 to 5 kind of mentality. What you're going to put in is what you get out. And so that was kind of drilled into me pretty early.
Well, add a boy to your dad, add a girl to your mom. Well done there.
And it makes Coach Ballgame, I want to say real quick, it makes me feel better about what I did this morning, because my oldest, Michael, was having an attitude, and I had to address it. He was being mean to his brothers. He wasn't being kind. He was not showing respect. And there was a consequence. I don't need to share the consequence, but he's not going to baseball practice tonight. That's the consequence. I shared it.
You hit him where it hurts.
You got to be respectful.
There you go.
What were you going to say, Coach? I'm sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, that was really it. I mean, Chad just told me a story before you came on, Javier, about his weekend, and I think this is a good thing to get into with a 4-time World Series champion. Is he had some parents that were yelling some negative things towards umpires, and parents were not showing a great way to be a parent around their kids at a baseball tournament. Can you speak to that at all, as far as like the intensity in travel ball, in Little League, in youth sports, and how the idea of teaching respect to your child becomes secondary to winning a game or winning a trophy? What do you say to that?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion about this, and my son is now 9 years old, and I have the opportunity to coach him right now. I don't want to coach. I'd rather be a parent, but kind of what you're speaking to is that some of the teams that I've seen and that I've been around are all about winning, and I don't like the way that's built. And we've had some moments. I have the opportunity to coach with Brian McCann, a former catcher. His son and my son are the same age, so it's been great. So we're pretty level-headed, I would say, when we look at the overall picture around youth sports in our area. But to your point, just a quick story. My son played a game last summer, and we were facing a kid at 8 years old that was throwing extremely hard for 8 years old, and our team was striking out like crazy. So my son is not a very confident boy when the kid's throwing hard. So he kind of steps in the bucket, steps out, and he swings on a pitch that's outside, but he's a right-handed hitter. So he's already stepping towards third base, and he swings and he falls over, and he gets loud laughed by the parents of the other team. And I try to hold my emotions in check, and I don't like to blow up in front of, especially my team, my kids, because I know they all look at you, So It was one of those moments where I had to check myself. and I was running hot. I didn't say anything, but I had that death stare, and I'm just like, you're clowning a kid who's 8 years old for playing a game that we should all be loving and promoting and enjoying. And I think the focus gets a little off kilter at times. And I think that's where it's hard to figure out what's right and what's wrong. We're not the greatest team. That's 100% honesty. But I feel like if we get the building blocks put together, the game should be fun. We're harder at practice than we are during a game. And the game, I have your back no matter what. You walk 5 guys in a row, get the 6th guy out. Like, I'm going to support you. But in practice, we'll work on things that make you better. But we really drill in competition, but also lifting each other up at practice. Because it's another thing I see a lot in youth sports is, you should have made this play. You got to make this pitch. You got to get this hit. Like, again, these guys are 9, 10, 11, 12. It's way too much pressure for a young kid. And I don't have the right answer by any means. But I think we have the certain pillars that we're trying to get to. And I think eventually it'll hopefully show itself. Hopefully this spring. I mean, maybe we'll be a little bit better. I think you need to win just enough to keep the kids vested, but you also need to teach them the right way to go about things. And I think that's the side we're erring on.
I'll kick it back to you here after this, Chad, but we had Nick Hundley on last week, and his dad always had a quote, "How do you eat an elephant? One small bite at a time." And I mean, that's why we have this podcast. We don't have the answers to that parent that's ridiculing that 8-year-old, but we can shine a light on how it's wrong and how there's a right way of doing it, and bring major leaguers on that can speak to that. So one attaboy at a time, one kind act at a time. Yeah, we're going to change the culture. That's my mission in life. So I don't know how I would have dealt with that. Well done on keeping it cool.
I think it helped that my wife was there. You know, I did have to walk it off. I had to walk it off and kind of just regroup, because you never want to, I've always taught, especially playing ball, never let them see you sweat. That was a big moment there. But it's funny you brought up the elephant thing. I tell my son that all the time. He's very result oriented. So we're like, hey, dude, slow it down. one bite at a time. That's how you eat the elephant.
So Jav, you touched on dealing with the culture of like, oh, what, like, you screwed that up. What are you doing? Like, as a teammate, as a coach, all that stuff. One thing that we really are trying to instill, and it showed up a couple times this weekend, goosebump moments as a coach. I want to breed the culture of like, how are we going to respond? Right. So if you make a mistake as an individual, that's done. That's okay. But how are you going to respond? I remember vividly, Pablo Sandoval made an error. We were in Milwaukee and he made a big error, and, you know, it was a big deal. But he didn't hang his head, and his next at bat, he hit a 3-run homer. You know what I mean? And it was just that moment of like, okay, that's over, and that's okay. And we can learn from that at another time. But right now, collectively as a team, we have a chance to pick our teammate up. And as an individual, you have an opportunity if we can breathe and get back in the moment. It's a learned skill, but holy smokes, a couple times this weekend it happened, and it's powerful, and it's great.
Right.
So,
I think that's great. I think that's great that you're able to pick up on that. I think maybe what you and coach will like figure out is that, and it sounds like you guys have figured it out, is that when you can remove yourself from that moment and just realize that they're under your umbrella. These kids are under your umbrella. You're not in there. It's not win at all costs situation. Of course you want to win. Don't get me wrong, but when you can step back and notice those little intricacies, those little moments, I think that's when it becomes really special.
Yeah, I love that. And for our listeners, like that is so powerful. That's it. That is it. The win and loss is not, it's not it. It's like, can we teach these kids a life skill of dealing with adversity or failure and then responding, you know? And that's it. Javi, that's great. You touched on a couple of my questions with your answer to Coach Ballgame, which is great. Your grandfather had a huge impact on you. I want to ask you, who is on your teammate Mount Rushmore?
I tell you what, this is a difficult one for me to ask, and I'm gonna dodge a little bit. It's only because in the 14 years I played in Major League Baseball, my Mount Rushmore changed in a sense. Like, I had the right people at the right time. So my first year, Darren Oliver, former left-handed pitcher with the Texas Rangers, bounced around a bunch. He was up there for me because he wore me out, but he wore me out with kindness and love too. Like I could feel it was like a tough love that I needed. I made it to the big leagues as a Rule 5 draft. So I was in Double-A the year before. And next thing you know, I'm the guys I was watching on TV, I'm playing with. And I couldn't understand that. And it took me a while to figure that out. And Darren was on top of me every single day, but I could sense the kindness that he was coming from. And Steve Reed was one of those. But, Sean Casey, the mayor, is the mayor for a reason. He genuinely enjoyed the game. And he'd be up there for me forever. I think he was a great teammate. Buster Posey is another one for me because I got to initially be his mentor. We hung out a lot his rookie year, and I didn't know anybody with the Giants in 2010. So he and I spent a lot of time in 2010 together, and I got to watch that evolve from mentorship to he being the boss, and I'm the guy that's leaning on him. And I thought that was cool that no matter all the accolades, all the cool stuff that he's done in his entire career, he did genuinely care for the person next to him. And I think that's what makes a great teammate. And I had plenty of those. But I mean, if I had to narrow it down, I would say Sean Casey would be one. Buster would be another. For me, for the levity reason, I love Dustin Pedroia. I thought he was really great. And probably Darren Oliver. Steve Reed would be close as well. Another reliever.
Wow. Amazing. 14 years, man. That's what a career. And they impacted you, but let me tell you, you impacted countless teammates, man. Countless teammates. Wow. And countless instant replay analysts as well.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Coach Ballgame.
That's awesome. And I think those four guys it's so different. Each guy is kind of different in the way their personality is, and that speaks to a team is kind of being able to work with all the dynamics, and speaks to a coach and how important it is to meet everybody on their own playing field and their own personality. You talk about your favorite players. Did you have a favorite coach, maybe a favorite youth coach, somebody that you look back on and instead of pushing you out of the game, maybe reeled you in, or who was that for you?
Yeah, clear as day. It was when I grew up. I'm much older, and it was a different time. And we actually had Little League. We had town versus town kind of things, unlike all this travel ball nowadays. So my first one was Coach Benny. He was my all-star coach when I was 9 years old. So I played majors. So I was the youngest kid on the team, 9 years old, playing with 12-year-olds, really because I was fast, no other reason. And so he was the first guy that taught me about the game. My dad was a basketball guy, didn't really know much about baseball. My mom was a volleyball player, didn't really know much about baseball. So he was the first guy that actually took some time, taught me how to play first base, taught me how to wear my uniform properly, taught you all the little superstitions that you should never have, but you have them. Don't step on the line. Make sure that when you toss the bat, you toss it to the dugout. All those little things. Always hustle down the first baseline on a walk. All those things. Just all those little baseball things that you'd like to see. So I give him a lot of credit. He looked like Tom Selleck too, which was really kind of cool. Big, nice 80s stash. He had the old bicycle shorts or bike shorts that they don't even sell anymore that you saw all the time. Yeah, he's one I definitely give a lot of credit to, because he knew I had a certain love for the game, and he just patted me on the back and just kind of pumped me up in that regard. And then it evolved. My high school coaches were great too. My high school coach was actually my elementary school PE teacher, so I knew him since kindergarten. So I looked at him like an idol. Like I wanted to be a part of whatever he was doing. And I knew he's the head baseball coach at my high school, and I was like, that's it. I'm gonna try to play baseball so I can be around this guy. And it worked out. And then as it evolved, I mean, when I get to pro ball, it gets a little bit different, just because you're around so many people and there's so many guys. There's 1,500 guys, that are in these minor leagues and whatnot. So, but one guy that really stuck his neck out for me and really pushed me to be better was two guys actually. The farm director, God rest his soul, he's passed away a long time now. Tommy Jones. He was the farm director for the Diamondbacks. I was not doing well in the minor leagues, but he knew I could fight, and I had the will to win and the will to compete. And he kept pushing me to go to higher levels that I should not have been at, but he believed in me. And when he sent me to one spot, he sent me with the care of Mark Davis, former Cy Young Award winner, lefty closer with the Padres, minute with the Giants and some other clubs. He's the one that took the time out of all the coaches I ever spent with. I never was a prospect. I was always a suspect is what we would always call each other. And he took the time during that AA season to help me find it. I had dropped my arm angle, trying to make it to the big leagues. I had no idea what I was doing. And every single day we played catch. Every single day we tried new grips. He was left-handed like I was. And we threw bullpens, and the love that he showed me in a moment where he didn't need to, because if I made it to the big leagues, it's not like a badge of honor for him. I'm just another guy. He needed to get the prospects up. And the fact that he took that time in AA, every time I see him, I thank him for it.
Hey, there's that elephant. You're eating that elephant one bite at a time. One great youth coach, one great minor league coach at a time. The quote that got me was, "I want to be around this guy." Like, that's the coach I want to be. Like that, because a lot of my kids are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. They haven't even got the motor skills yet to know if they're a great athlete or not. But if they want to be around me, and if they feel safe and have fun around me, then there you go. Then I've done my job as a youth coach. So yeah, be the kind of coach where the kids, they want to be around you. I'll go play that game because of his sense of humor or his quirkiness. It's great.
I'm the energy guy. As far as the coaching staff, I'm the energy guy. So when it comes to stretching, like, I'm out there with them. When it's time to run, I'm running with them. And I'm yelling, but yelling positively. Like, let's get moving. Because if I'm asking you to do it, I got to do it. That's as close as Michael Jordan speeches as you're ever going to get out of me. Like, if I'm going to do the work, you got to put in the work. And I think they do respond to that.
Well, me and Chad both live by this. The kids don't hear what you say, but they see what you do. And what's memorable is those physicalities, that energy of you doing this stuff. They're going to remember that in 20 years when they don't want to get up early for a weight training session. But they'll remember that visual. So good on you. Jay Smooth, the energy guy.
Yeah.
Try to be.
And one thing that I like to try to create in our practices and even in the games is having just a fearless mentality, right? Where if you make a mistake, you're not going to have to look over your shoulder and see the coach throwing his hat or, mumbling under his breath. It's like, hey, if we make a mistake, we're going to respond together. We're going to pick each other up. We're going to learn from it, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep trying to navigate this game, and that's awesome. I love that. Question for you. What is the best advice that your dad ever gave you?
Well, again, this is not a slight on my father, but growing up in the 80s doing little league, it was drop your kid off. I'll be back in 2 hours picking you up.
Okay.
So that being said, my dad if you've ever spent any time with him, he will chat anybody up. He's going to sit there and talk to you. And one of the things that he did tell me, as I got into high school and I was starting to get scouted a little bit and recruited to go to college, he goes, "Hey, listen, the people you see on the way up are the same people you're going to see on the way down. You're picking a sport. Sports are hard. Sports are hard to be successful at in general." And he goes, respect everybody, get to know people's names. Doesn't matter what they do, who they are. You got to know them on the way up, because he's like, failure will happen. And you can never have a big head when it comes to this. So you got to know everybody, try to make them feel great, because they'll make you feel great. And it's just, you serve each other. It's like servantship. You're sitting there, hey, what's up, Chad? Might be the one thing I get to say to you today, and that might make your day. And I think he tried to instill that in me. Like, hey, listen, I don't care how good you end up being in the sport or how terrible you end up being in the sport. Respect people, treat them the same way, take the time on the way up as you would in any other profession. And so that's kind of what I've always thought about, especially when in pro ball. Like, I'd say hi to all the security guys, the grounds crew, whoever. I got to know them, and we even go out and have some drinks or something, or maybe do a lunch or something, just to let them know that they're not just a body, that they're somebody. And I think that's kind of what I've always tried to instill, even in the locker room. Try to do the same thing.
And when I talk about you, that's one of the things that I talk about the most, is because everyone sees what you did on the field and the championships and all that stuff, but it's the kindness and respect that you treat everyone that comes through your path or within your area, that it makes a difference. And that's what we want our kids in youth sports. Like, that's what matters. Is you can't change the world, but you can change someone's world. And just your smile and you're like, hey, good morning, how's it going, man? Like that, it matters. It really matters. So like you are a true example of that. And just thank you for that. It's amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chad. What a nice
ball game.
Man, this is I'm just kind of like sitting back. It's like I'm listening to a sermon, and I'm just like, yeah, dude, this is all so good, man. This is life-giving. Well, I guess just for me to end on more of a light note, the bullpen always kind of interests me, and the hours that you spend out there, and there's lots of chewing gum and sunflower seeds. But for the 12-year-old out there, what is a major league bullpen really like? And do you have maybe a memorable story in your, I don't know, hours of time out there?
Well, if we're looking for 12-year-olds to watch this podcast, I will keep it the way it should be. I tell you what, for the most part in the bullpen, if you're on a good team, you kick back for 5 innings and you play games, you stir the pot, you do riddles, you tell some terrible dad jokes. You try to keep it lighthearted because, I always kid with every starter. When it gets tough, they're out of the ballgame. When the game gets hard, they leave. And you got to be able to step in and put out the fire. That's why when you asked me for nicknames, another nickname of mine was the Wolf, because of Pulp Fiction. You come in, you fix the problem. And so that's one of the ones that, like, when you think about it, we had some great ones. We had great interactions with fans. I was out there with Brian Wilson, and Brian Wilson was not afraid to just get yelled at because he had the beard. So he just straight faced everything, kept chirping, and then he'd turn around and scream at the fans, and they freaked out because he would not say anything for 5 innings, 6 innings. He wouldn't say a word. And then he snaps back, and it's like the greatest thing ever. And as a rookie, one of the greatest experiences I had, which I can say that now, looking at it, was terrible. We had to carry a candy bag, and the candy bag traditionally was some sort of kid backpack. Whether it's, I don't remember what it was back then. Let's say like Blue's Clues or something, something crazy. And we would have to fill it up: seeds, gum, candy, Red Bulls, or whatever energy drink you had going. And every single day, I had the veteran player turn around, open the candy bag, throw it into the stands every single day. And you had to go back in the clubhouse and fill it right back up and do it again every single time. But, you get annoyed, but at the same time, I could be riding a bus. I could be riding a bus in AA. And so I got it was such a great thing to actually be able to pass on to somebody else. So you kind of waited for that guy to get called up, even if it was for like a week because somebody got hurt. For a week, you had some time off. But yeah, I mean, that was great. The interaction with the fans is what you miss the most. I think the greatest thing from 2003 to when I retired after 2016 was the evolution of the cell phone and the smartphone. 2003, they still kind of had to do a Google search and then yell at you at the field. With information at your fingertips, holy smokes, it got tough down there sometimes. They were up there checking out. They knew who you were married to, who you were dating, what they looked like, what your parents' names were, what your stats were when you were 9 years old in a summer league, whatever it was. Like, they knew it, and they would crush you for it. So Philadelphia, I got to tip my hat. They had some good ones there.
Yeah, that's exactly what came to mind, was Philly. Like that.
Yeah.
They know how to get you. Awesome. Oh, yeah. That's all I got, man. The Chad Chop, the Chad the Dad. Back to you.
I got one more, Hob, and then we'll let you go. Thank you again for taking the time.
Yeah, man.
My question to you is, who was your greatest challenge to face throughout your career? And once again, you can name a few, because you would face the big power lefty from, every team and get the righties out as well. But go ahead, go for it.
For the length of my career, Chase Utley, I just love the way he grinded at bats. And I say that because I have ownage on him. I can say that, but I knew he was going to battle me. That's rarely do you ever see a guy that's going to take an at-bat off in the big leagues. And you knew you were in for a fight with Utley. So I loved facing him, and it was mutual respect. And it happened not till his last year we played together. I'd said maybe 5 words to the guy, and we're in LA, and he gets a base hit off me, off my foot, goes into left field, and he hustles and he gets a double. And I walk out there and I'm laughing at him because that's the first hit I'd ever given up to him. And he's like, he asked for the ball. They threw the ball out and he asked me to sign it.
That's amazing.
And I was like, that's the mutual respect you want, you know? And so he was one of them. For me, the very first was Barry Bonds. Like, once I made it to the big leagues and I'm facing Barry in the heyday, 2003, 2004, Barry, MVP Barry. That was quite an intimidating thing. And I loved every minute of it though, because it's like, I've arrived, you know, it's one of those, like, I'm not watching this guy on TV anymore. I get to do something. So that was one for me. I guess I lean more towards the Hall of Famers because I got a chance to face a good amount of them. Like Chipper Jones was great because as a right-handed hitter, I got to face him a bunch, try to get him. It's hard to believe he's weaker from the right side, but he was.
Yeah.
And that's only very marginal, you know, that he's weaker from the right side. But to be able to say I faced some of these Hall of Famers, I'd say Chipper, Utley was by far the best one for my career. Barry Bonds and Pujols was another guy I ended up facing a lot. So those guys were probably my biggest challenges.
Chase Sudley gets credit for changing the culture in the Dodgers clubhouse. So he's a big reason why they're doing what they're doing over there. They have a tremendous amount of reverence and respect for Chase Sudley. He's still around. So that's cool that you dropped Chase. Well, hey, we really appreciate your time. Is there anything you want to share? Yeah, I was gonna say, is there anything you want to share? Anything that you got going on that we can plug for you here?
I wish I did. I'm just an absolute
love that
dad here doing nothing. You know, I wish I had something you could plug, but
hey, that's
just be loving the game. Thing. That's it. Yeah.
The Lopez family. The Lopez family. I'd plug that all day.
Big basketball season starting Friday night. You know, 9-year-olds getting at it. Cutthroat here.
Yes. Hey, you're the very best. I appreciate you, Coach Ballgame.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and the plug being a great dad, because that's the hardest job. We know. So well done. Thanks again for joining. It's great to meet you.
Hey, no problem. And thanks for the invite. It was fun.
Have a great day. See you, bud.
All right, bud.
Attaboy. Kids out there, give Javier Lopez an attaboy on 3.
Attaboy.
1, 2, 3. And go on YouTube and watch him pitch. There's a video of him just owning so many great hitters in the major leagues. Like, it's like 5 minutes long of just strikeout over and over. The same guy over and over. You spoke about Joey Votto, and like Chase Utley finally got his first hit off of him, you know, in his last season of his career. Like, he just figured it out. He knew he was the wolf. He was amazing. He took trouble and he just put it in a nice little box and turned it into a something nice. So well done getting that dude.
Yeah. And think about, like, what were all he wanted to talk about really was how to treat people, you know, like, I mean, that's a character guy. And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier today, where you said, like, man, I don't know why all this stuff's happening to me, but it's like, I do. And Javi could say, I don't know why I had all this success, but I do. I know why. I saw it. I saw why you guys have success. It's because you guys are about the right things, and you put the emphasis or the priority on what truly matters. And then that's how life works. You get blessed. And that's just the way it is. If you're not looking for it, it's coming your way. If you're putting others first.
I told you, since we started this podcast, I've had a nice little uptick in my happiness, and maybe that's our tagline. Hey, you want a little uptick in your happiness? Here you go. Because Mark Twain said it. You want to put a smile on your face, then you got to really try to put a smile on somebody else's. So once again, another high character guy who made it to the major leagues, was very successful, and now, you know, he's coaching 9-year-old basketball, daddy duty.
That's amazing.
And awesome. What we wanted to close with something really cool.
I did. I wanted to close with you and I. We talk about goosebump moments, right? And we touched on a little bit with Javi, but we have a kid who's just an incredible athlete. His 3 older brothers play football, one in college, the other 2 high level varsity football at a big time school out here in Oro Valley. And he's working his tail off. He's doing great, but you can tell he's putting some pressure on himself. And we had a moment where he tried to do a little bit too much on defense and made an error. And we know as coaches, you can see when their shoulders shrug and they know that in their mind they've let everybody down and they're upset and frustrated. Well, he came off the field and I told him, like, hey, it doesn't matter what happens to us. Like, we'll work on that at practice. But now you have this moment to respond. We're going to pick you up and you have a chance to pick yourself up. How are you going to respond? You know? So he went in and you could see his body language change a little bit and his almost had a little bit of fire in his belly. He came up his next at bat with a runner on first and second, and he hit a 3-run inside the park home run. And when he starts rounding third, flying into home, diving in head first, I mean, I was overwhelmed with emotion and goosebumps. And it wasn't because of the home run. It was because of the mentality of, like, this ain't over. I have an opportunity. Like, I'm in the moment. And that's a skill. If we can teach our kids, that's our goal, because that is it. It truly doesn't matter what happens to us. It's just about how we respond. And even if we make a mistake off the field, you apologize for it. You take ownership for it. And then you try to do the right thing, and you try to do right by your people you love and the people around you. And even the people that maybe you don't like. I had this conversation with my oldest. We played against a kid that apparently is kind of a bully at school, right? So they really wanted to beat this guy and embarrass him. And this guy, I go, no. You want to get back at him? Be nice to him. Love him. Be kind. And all of a sudden, he's not going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, if you go at this guy with the same anger and meanness and hatred, like, that's going to harden your heart, and that's going to continue to harden his heart. But if you go at him with love and kindness, oh boy, that's going to change him and you. And so, man, it was special. It was so cool.
Goosebumps. Well, that's just an inspiration to me and all you coaches out there to try to find at least one of those goosebump moments per day. And for me, it happened. I don't know when exactly the moment was, but I saw a coach spend 30 seconds tying this kid's shoe. And a lot of times I just want to keep moving. I don't like being stagnant. I'm allergic to boredom, but there was something about that visual that kids see of a grown man getting on his knee and tying this 6-year-old shoe and spending the time to do it, as opposed to go tell your mom to do it or sending it on to somebody else. So now every time I get asked to tie my shoe, and it's all the time, I do it, and I spend my time doing it, and I give that shoe a little tap at the end, because again, they're not really listening to what they say. They won't remember how many at bats or reps they got in 10 years, but they might remember that visual of a grown man kneeling and tying this 6-year-old shoe. So that's a goosebump moment for me as well. Well done.
Servant leadership. Servant leader.
Well, the name of Nick Hundley's episode was Servant Leader. For Javier Lopez, man, we've got, what do we got? Jay Smooth, the Wolf.
I like the Wolf.
Yeah, we might have to go with the Wolf, because he just took a bad thing and he got rid of it.
He got rid of it. Now when I think of the Wolf, I think of Jay Smooth, man.
It's awesome.
You know?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, hey, we've got many more great guests lined up. Like
we do. We have Doc Roberts next week.
Next week is the manager. Is Doc Roberts, and I am so fired up I can't even stand it. And then many more lined up every Tuesday. So make sure you get this podcast out, folks. Subscribe, tell your friends about it. If you want to be a better coach, a better parent, make your kids happier kids. We are searching to find how to communicate to the youth better, and how to make better choices as a parent and a coach to make these kids better people. That's what matters. The trophy doesn't matter when you're 8 years old. the curveball doesn't matter when you're 8 years old. I mean, what kind of dad is this person going to be? What kind of mom? What kind of leader are they going to be down the road? That really is what matters. So a good coach can change a game, but a great coach can change a life, and they certainly won't scream at an umpire.
That's right. Well, you're the best. I appreciate you and everything you're about, and I hope you have a great week, Coach Ballgame.
Same to you, man. Find those shoes to tie.
Have a great week.
Goosebumps.